Welcome to Whistleblowers in partnership with Wix Trade Pro. Coming up.
Arsenal won the league and there was a party going on at the training ground and I was like, it was hardly Jamie Vardy's house, is it? That was a party.
I had to shake my head a few times. Some people sent me messages. How could the third goal not be offside? I had to stop.
I saw a great thing on social media of a skit of, what's his name, Wilfred Nancy, ringing up Celtic asking if he's getting a win. If he gets to win his medal. And the guy on the other end of the phone says, no, there's only one. And he's like, oh, well, you know, I'm happy to share it with Martin. Brendan can f*** off.
Welcome to Whistleblowers. As always, the original three are present for the first time in a wee while. Ian, welcome back.
Hello.
It's really
nice
good to
be
see you.
back. You talk as though I've been away for like a month. I miss an episode and the walls fall down.
He looks very fresh today, doesn't
No, do you know what it is? He's got a little bit of colour about his cheeks.
Yeah.
Why is that?
What has happened?
You've been on gardening leave the last week or so.
No, I had a few drinks last night. Football writers did.
There you go.
Normally that drains me. Why is that
He's
invigorating?
looking very
me?
glow. His hair's looking stylish.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's looking
Hey,
different.
No, it's nice of you to say so.
What happened at the football writers' dinner that
But
you've
you've not
come
mentioned my new jumper.
You've come in on your tips.
No one's mentioned
No, we don't mention that.
That's
We only mention.
Only mentioned Mark's clothes.
No, we're not talking about that. You tiptoed in here today like a happy little man. What happened? Was it a good night last night?
Pleasant evening.
Did you win an award?
Strangely, no. Given that it's handed out for the footballer of the year. Bruno Fernandes, Manchester United.
Well deserved.
Bunny Shaw, got the Women's Award, Manchester City striker, although she's on her way to Chelsea, which is devastating my daughter.
Yeah.
Still some debate about the Bruno thing. To me, he's a clear winner. Some people can't get their heads around the fact that the footballer of the year hasn't come from Arsenal because they've won the league. But to me, without going deep into it, there's nothing that says you have to play for the best team to be the best player.
I'm massively in the Roy Keane camp here with the criticism of
But also,
about his assists.
But also, isn't it harder to be a good player in an average team than it is to be a good player in a good team?
They finished third. They're not average, are they?
Well, they're average compared to the champions, who were never in the title race, were they? So they're not.
No.
You know, they're the best of the rest. Mm-hmm. So I don't really see the grumpiness about Fernandes winning it. I think he's had a great season, and Roy Keane's been Roy Keane for clicks.
Yeah,
he always is.
No, I'm actually with him on this one.
Are you with him?
I'm with him on this one. Yeah,
Why?
yeah.
Why?
I think the emphasis of the team has to be about winning trophies and not about somebody doing well with assists. I just find that really weird. The mentality.
So what is it a team award or is it an individual award?
Yeah, I feel
because Arsenal have been collectively great as a team. That's why they've won the league. Yeah. City have been collectively good as a team, not good enough compared to. But Bruno Fernandes, for me, stands out as an individual in that Manchester United team who's been outstanding.
If you compare the two teams, though, for me, I think culturally, and it is a bigger picture, I think it's not about an individual award for me. The reason Arsenal have been successful because it's a team. That looks like it's all about the individual, and I don't like that.
If you're saying that this obsession with, stats. Oh, Bruno's now equal Thierry Henry and Kevin De Bruyne as the most assists in a season. Yeah, that absolutely means nothing to me. I don't care about that. I don't really care massively about golden boots and things like that. But I think that if Keane's trying to call Bruno out for what? For doing his job? For playing well?
No, it's the petulance after a chance has been missed because he's not reaching his 20
Yeah, there's still
assists.
a bit of that.
I don't like that.
Yeah, there's still a bit of that.
That spreads.
Yeah.
It really is. But
that shows he's a winner.
I think he's cleaned that up a little bit.
No, a
also,
little bit
a
of that's
fish
a winner.
rots from the head down, right? So if your leader, your talisman, if his body language is wrong, that affects younger players.
Don't disagree.
I get that.
Van Dijk's had a bit of that this season, which we've talked
great
about
example.
before.
Great example.
We've talked about before.
Yeah.
It's never my fault.
Yeah.
But I still think he's been the best player. And I think to me, Arsenal deserve champions. We'll get onto it in a minute. Well played, Arsenal. Brilliant job by Mikel Arteta. But I don't think they've had an outstanding individual.
Yeah.
But that's okay. That's all right. Doesn't
fine.
matter.
I never even introduced
Probably the only one that you could probably say from an Arsenal team looking at is David Raya.
Well, people are talking
my side,
people are talking about Jack.
Where very rare
That's
goalkeepers get.
interesting.
Everybody seems to overlook goalkeepers because everybody looks at
That's
the
a great
midfielders
point.
or the creators. Because if
been
we're
good.
looking at Bruno Fernandes' stats, his assists are second to none. But David Raya's saves have been outstanding at times.
My beef with the Ballon d'Or, which I think it interests me even less than footballers of the year, except the Ballon d'Or. If you look back through history, which I did once for a particularly angry column that I wrote, you will find that in all the years of the Ballon d'Or, I think defenders have won it 3 times.
You're right, yeah.
One of those was Franz Beckenbauer, who was barely a defender. So that just shows that these awards always go to people who score goals.
Correct.
They always go to the creative players.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
That's a good point. Right, so we start with Arsenal then. And by the way, Mark, I never introduced you properly. Good to see you.
Oh, I didn't think I was, yeah.
Yeah. Just in case.
Oh, by the way, just picking up on last week, no, it doesn't count.
Oh,
Holding one on a simulator.
I tell you what, I've had some abuse. I think the voting really counted
what
for itself. Did you see the shot, by the way?
Yes.
It was a good shot, man.
It was average.
But it didn't even go in. That's the thing. Didn't even
I was only
go in
asking
anyway.
a question because I was that close. It was that close. I thought, would that count?
It's the irrelevant debate anyway.
In case anybody missed it, does a hole-in-one count on a simulator at golf?
Yeah.
Mark says yes. Ian says
No.
I say no.
The answer came in. A lot of answers came in. The answer was no.
No. Right, let's start then with Arsenal because they are champions. Very quick question at the top. Declan Rice, Saka, and there was another player celebrating outside the ground at 5:30. I saw the video and thought, brilliant. However, there is a rumour that is an official club fine.
They won't get fined for that. They will not get fined for
Imagine.
that. They will not get fined for that.
When's the Champions League final?
And if they are,
It will next week and a
about a week and a
half.
half.
You've
If
got
they
to-
are fined for that, it's a fine worth paying.
Yeah.
If they're fined for that, all the Arsenal supporters,
Chip in.
all 12 of them, should chip in together and pay that fine. If I can get Henry, get the Arsenal crew that run this podcast to pay for it.
The media in London, you mean?
If you remember when Leicester won the title, Leicester did exactly the same, didn't they? And it was midweek before the last round.
It did make it was funny. Like it was funny when I was at this dinner last night and people came through that Arsenal won the league and there was a party going on at the training ground. And I was like, it was hardly Jamie Vardy's house, is it?
It's not.
It's where the Leicester, party.
But that was when it was. That was when it was.
That was a party.
Yeah, that was a party. One thing that I think slightly overlooked before we talk about Arsenal is how good Bournemouth are. I mean, that's a great point for them, isn't it? Getting into Europe, and they've played brilliantly. An argument for manager of the season as well. Yeah. I'm missing their best player, Ryan Christie.
But what a massive, but what a massive goal for Haaland at the end.
Yeah.
Simply because that means that Liverpool will probably get the final Champions League place.
Yeah.
Even though they don't look as though they'd beat their own reserves at the moment.
Yeah.
If Bournemouth had won that game, I think Liverpool would only have been a point ahead going into the final game of the season. And with all of the nonsense that's going on there with Salah's final game and all the rancour around that, and Liverpool are playing Brentford at the weekend.
Yeah. Who again?
I wouldn't have bet on them, but now I think they're going to be okay. So that's but Bournemouth have done brilliantly. Of course they have. But blimey, if they'd have got 3 points against City, they could have been in the Champions League.
Keep the golf chat going. What was it they say? There are never pictures on a scorecard, right? It's probably the ugliest league win for a long time. And what was the points total? 70?
No, they've got
78 odd, something like that. And anyway, the fact of the matter is, Mark, Arsenal won it. They're top of the league, and they won it without playing. What I wanted to ask
82.
you...
I'm not. Listen, let's forget about points. They've won the league.
Yeah, we won the league.
They were the best team in the league, even though they've been criticised and a lot of jealousy. The way they've played, they've scrapped the way, they've had some luck. At the end of the day, they are champions, and nobody cares next season or the season after when they've got that champions on their
That's true.
on their record.
The fresh perspective on this particular point for me, though, right? See, when you saw the boys celebrating at the training ground, how much of that do you think was relief that it didn't go down to the final day, and how much of it was genuine celebration? Because I think
a bit of both, but I think deep down, Arteta will be so happy because their focus now is Champions League final. They've got to work out how to beat a
got a
Paris
good run to it
Saint-Germain
as well,
team.
haven't they?
They didn't want to go into that last day of the season having to put 110% effort in with their first team when they've got a huge game the week after. Because now, if Arteta wants to elevate himself and Arsenal Football Club to be across the European elite, they've got to find a way to beat this wonderful PSG team.
Yeah.
I think
And playing with that worry, because against Burnley, the last game Arsenal played, they had that nerve
cagey
again.
one,
They could have had
Fans were cagey.
Kai Harvard should have been sent off, in my opinion.
That was a red,
That's another discussion with PG Well. However, Arsenal were again that nervy way through a game that they would expect to win 3-4-0 against a Burnley team who are already on their holidays, relegated, whatever.
a couple of things. So when Man United won the treble in 1999, I just looked on my phone because I thought it was right. 79 points, won them the league in the treble year.
How many games did they lose? It was something like 6 or 7 games,
quite a
wasn't
few.
it? Yeah.
And they drew. So I need to call the table up again, but I will do. They drew quite a few. No, they only lost 3, but they drew 13 games. Man United of the third. They only won 22 of the 38
That's the
games
figure,
in
isn't
the
it?
treble year. So it just shows that And we look back at that as one of the greatest achievements in English football history, that first treble by an English club. So it doesn't matter how many points Arsenal have got to win the league. They've been the best side. In terms of Champions League final, I think that's different for them. I think that's a free hit for them because this has been about pressure.
The pressure's off.
They had to win this title, okay? Yeah. They lost it once they seem to have lost it once when City beat them at the Etihad a month ago. And City opened the door and Arsenal had to walk through the door. Yeah. And we've seen the manifestation of that. We've seen the nerves, the way they played against Burnley. I think they've got no pressure in the Champions League final. They're underdogs. Yeah. They've already got the league in the bag. It's a great season. It's a free hit. Go and play. You might see a slightly different Arsenal.
Yeah. Just going on about that point, just a little bit, Adam. I think this year, forget about the style of what the Premier League was about this year with teams. However, there's a lot more competitive teams. If you look where Newcastle are finishing, Newcastle can beat anybody on their day. You go further up, Leeds have damaged a lot of clubs this year, and they're in the bottom half of the league. Sunderland. So a lot of teams have taken points off the top sides.
You mentioned the 3Bs.
So that's why, 3 years ago, when City, Liverpool dominated the league, nobody beat them.
You're right.
It was a 2-horse race, wasn't it?
Bournemouth, Brighton, Sunderland are all formidable opponents, aren't they?
At the moment.
This is the thing that I said about a couple of months ago about the title race and about Arsenal and City. I did say that the one thing that I didn't think City would do is do what they did in the really great years, which was finish the season by going win. And
they haven't.
They haven't. They've drawn at Everton and they've drawn at Bournemouth, and that's been enough. That's been enough. But we shouldn't allow that to detract from what Arsenal have done. The fact is, I remember doing Arteta's opening press conference when he became manager of Arsenal. It was a wet Friday in December in 2019, even before COVID. I remember going down to the Emirates. He'd got the job. Arsenal had just got humped the weekend before by City, and Arteta had been in the City dugout with Pep. City had beaten Arsenal 3-0, and they'd been 2-0 up after 10 minutes. It was embarrassing. Arsenal were nowhere. They were nowhere. And Arteta walked into that press conference when he got the job, and he sat around a big table with a group of us, and he said, I've got to change. This club has got to change. You've got to change culture.
Remember that was a big interview, that, wasn't it?
Got to change culture. Yeah. He said, you don't see Kevin De Bruyne getting bullied. You don't see David Silva getting bullied. You don't see Ilkay Gundogan getting bullied. We shouldn't be seeing Arsenal players getting bullied. This has to change. And that was the start point. And from there to here, there's been a couple of dips along the way. He's absolutely transformed that.
He's been methodical about it.
He's transformed that football club
and culture
in
and
every way. The way
atmosphere,
that culture, environment, the way, the type of player that they buy, the type of person that they buy, the football that they play, and Arsenal have given him time. 5 years without a trophy is a long time for Arsenal.
And a lot of Arsenal fans were calling for his head throughout the past couple of years, weren't they? A lot of times.
But it's a good point, and I've said this many times. We look at the Premier League as a whole, and how many times do owners sack their coaches like that if they lose 5 off the bounce? It just shows the most successful clubs in England are the ones that have stability.
Longevity,
how many clubs would have given Arteta, if it wasn't for Arteta and Arsenal's connection, how many would have had that legacy? He would have probably been bombed after 2 years.
Look, he's finished second. He finished second 3 consecutive seasons.
But the fans were calling for his head
for coming second.
But his fans were calling because of the style of play. They were getting beat in the Champions League.
Yeah.
They were second. They were like playing second fiddle. Nobody remembers who finishes second. It's only if you win the league.
It's a strange thing to say. I don't think they are an outstanding team. That's a really strange thing to say. I don't think they're an outstanding team. My God, they might end up winning the Champions League and the Premier League. How can they not be outstanding? I don't feel they are, but they could become it. They could become it now.
There's an interesting thing in that because he's got a year left in his contract, right? Imagine how different things would have been had he not won this season, right? Not won the league this season. He's suddenly looking at not having that contract renewed, isn't he? But now suddenly it's like, well, there's a longer term project now. Is it what kind of deal will he get next?
I mean, let's be honest about it, Gordon. They've in terms of their football, Arsenal have actually flatlined. They've won this title because City have come backwards. I mean, and Liverpool have come backwards. That is true. That is true. That's why they've won it with 82 points. In terms of their progress, they've flatlined a little bit. But sometimes you just need something to go your way. And this one has gone their way. And now, if Arteta sticks around, now they can take the next step with that monkey off the back. now they can become an outstanding team.
Do you know what I like about it is the blend of youth academy players that are coming through as well, and possibly the most exciting prospect in English football for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And to sort of bleed him in this season, that's something that might be remembered, you know, because they've got a good blend of good signings.
Good kids, yeah,
and fair play to Edu, right? He might not get a mention because he left the club to your mob at Forest, right?
And he's gone from there.
But if you look at his fingerprints on this squad, I think 10 of the starting 11 were his. So he deserves a bit of credit too, because he's built that team with Arteta.
Yeah, and there've been Arteta's made some big calls, hasn't he? He made some big calls towards the end of the season, taking Zubimendi out of his team. You know, Trossard all of a sudden has been his go-to guy on the left side. Lewis Kelly's been back in the
midfield,
team.
But he got
Ben White came back. White came back into the team from nowhere.
But he made a tactical change on Gyökeres.
Yeah,
because he wasn't working. He was like, it wasn't working. And then he got the ball direct into the penalty area, and it started to work for them, didn't he?
Yeah.
You know, he did change, and I like Arteta for that. Some coaches one-dimensional. He's happy to change it. How many times did he must have changed it during the season? You know, even played, what was it, in a semi-final of a Champions League, Lewis Kelly in midfield.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you think happens then with that contract negotiation? Like, if you were his agent, do you want a deal signed before the Champions League final? Because I think he's on £10 million a year basic plus £5 million Champions League bonuses. But his contract's got 1 year left.
It'd be a great message, wouldn't it?
I
think it would be a great message.
What a great way to go into the final. Eh?
Yeah, I think it would give the players a big lift if they think that there's more stability. But I think the players...
Come on, guys, let's look at it.
But the players would know. The players would know Arteta's going to be around, surely.
Hang on a minute. If you're going to renegotiate a new contract, do you want to do it as a Champions League winner? I think you probably do. I think if I was his agent, give him a chance to win the Champions League first, and then...
Do you think it would matter?
Terms on the table.
But you compare that to Pep, right? And we should move on and talk about Pep now, actually. You know, there's a master and apprentice conversation there. But, you know, the Pep news breaking at the time it broke, did that help or hinder the Bournemouth game? Do you think it played a part?
Possibly. Ollie Holt, our chief sports writer, broke that story on, what day are we now? Wednesday. On Monday. City were not happy about it. Pep was not happy about it. You know what? I think possibly. I think I like to say normally that players will go on, footballers, peculiar individuals in many ways. Anything can happen in their lives and they'll still go onto the pitch and play within reason, obviously. But that one, that's a big one. Although they will have seen it coming. They will have seen it coming.
I just think in the dynamics of the two clubs,
the question ever.
No, he's not. But in the dynamics of the two clubs, right? If you are a player and you're approached by Arsenal and the manager's just signed a 3-year extension to his deal, you think, right, that's consistency. If he likes me, I'm in for 3 years. If you're going to sign for City or Arsenal and that was your choice, and you see Maresca coming in, I don't know. I think it's a completely different decision than it was 6 months ago. So how does that play out then? I don't know. I think the Pep news psychologically for those players was so emotionally invested. He's such a big emotional part of that club. It can't have not affected the dressing room.
But there's been a lot of this, hasn't there? Because Pep has never signed long-term contracts with City, despite the fact he's been there for 10 years. He's just signed a succession of 2-year contracts. So players who've been at City for a while, Bernardo Silva, for example, John Stones, others, they're used to it. It's happened before, okay? But your point about what happens now, attracting players now, is the salient point. Coming to Manchester City to play for Pep Guardiola, most players in European football would probably go to Walsall if it was Pep Guardiola you were playing for. The greatest respect to Walsall. I think that's huge now, because you're not joining a relentless winning machine anymore, playing for the, in inverted commas, greatest coach in the world. You're joining a team in development with a new coach, and you're not in London. If you're a foreign player, you're not coming to London. You're coming to Manchester, which is different.
Yeah.
So that's the point, I think.
What do you think, Mark?
It's a good point.
Yeah,
it's a good point.
Do you think that what I'm saying is the power balance shifted to London here?
Well, it's the opportunity, isn't it? Here's the opportunity. Here's the opportunity.
Because players do play for coaches, don't they? You know, it's not just the team. They see a project and they want to play for that project. And City had a project, and you know they've delivered that project. And Guardiola's won many trophies, and players come to win trophies, don't they? Like you say, City now they've gone through this transition period. finished second. Won
Maresca's
2
been a
trophies,
winner.
by the way, which is incredible.
Yeah. It's a
forget what,
domestic double.
City have won a double, domestic double. They could have won a treble if they'd won the Community Shield, but Palace won it. So they've won the 2 domestic trophies. Okay, they haven't won the Premier League. They got knocked out of the Champions League. But for me, it's an interesting one because Guardiola's just hasn't officially announced, has he? Has he officially announced? No. He hasn't officially announced. It's been leaked. What's interesting is Maresca left Chelsea, didn't he? Halfway through the season, there was a bit of strange activities. Now the owners of Chelsea are threatening to sue Manchester City about Maresca leaving Chelsea. They're unhappy. Something's been going on for a while at City for this to happen, because why all of a sudden Maresca was already lined up. Maresca had chances to go to Spurs. He had other chances to go to clubs and refused and waited for this job at Manchester City, which I don't think any coach would not wait for.
It's not unusual, Mark, for a manager to get sacked and to have his payoff, and his payoff will be paid staggered over a period of a couple of years. And it's not unusual for if that manager then goes to another club, for the club that he's just left to say, well, you're back in work, so fuck your payoff. I know that happens. That's happened to a couple of mates of mine in football, managers lower down. They've been sacked, and then they've gone and they've said to me, I can't go to another club until there's payoffs. Until I've got all the payoff, unless they'll stop it, turn the tap off.
Yes, so most clubs now put a clause in a 6 months or a year's salary, so you can go and work again. Because, like Ian says, if you've got him on a 3-year contract, you've got to pay his 3-year contract up. You'd put him on garden leave. Why would you give him to a competitive club? So it never works anymore. Yeah. There's a clause in which is a negotiating clause where you can go and work. City and Chelsea's slightly different.
Going back to what you were saying, Gordon, about opportunity.
Yeah.
About City. I remember a few years ago talking to Ed Woodward when he was leaving Manchester United, and Ed said to me, Liverpool and City have got such a grip on English football with Klopp and Guardiola that we recognise at United that until that changes, then we kind of have to wait. And this is where we now are finally, because Klopp did leave, and now a year later, Liverpool have dropped off the cliff. And now Pep's going. So this opportunity is there now.
But also Michael Carrick signed a 2-year deal. So in which direction does the pendulum shift? Is it towards Arteta? United finished 3rd. It seems like a bit of stability there suddenly.
I mean, it's huge opportunity for Arteta and Arsenal to spend
really
invest well this summer and move to the next level and see if anyone else has got the gumption to go with them.
Yeah, it is an interesting point, isn't it? Because football is cyclical, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's been a spell of power that's definitely broken, hasn't it?
And you only had to watch the cup final last weekend, which was a poor game. It's not the first time that cup final has been a poor game. But I was sitting there watching it thinking, this kind of is where English football is at now. A City team who are not the City team of 4 years ago against a Chelsea team that still aren't good enough to beat them. And that's kind of where we are now with English football.
What's interesting for me as well in this is that, again, looking at the 3 Bs, the Brentford, Brighton, Bournemouth situation, again, a bit of investment there. Financial fair play has never been more important, because Newcastle, again, should be looking at this as an opportunity, should they not? I just see opportunity, because the league, like you say, 82 points. You pin that in the dressing room, you stick that in the boardroom and say, that's what we need to get to.
But if Arsenal can say, if Arteta can stick it on his dressing room wall and say, right, you put 10 more points on that next season, and none of this lot beneath us are going to make up 20 points to catch us. They've got a new manager. They've got a rookie in Michael Carrick. Liverpool, God knows what. Chelsea is still this. Tottenham have almost got relegated. Newcastle finishing in the bottom half. This is our time. You have to look at it like that.
And if you look at this Arsenal team, still quite relatively young. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You look at the City team, that there's 1 or 2 players, great players are going to leave, and they've left in previous years. Kevin De Bruyne.
Yeah.
These players have left. Guandoin went out to where Galatasaray. So now you look at this Arsenal team, still fairly young. If they get that investment right, which they will, they could be some force. If they go and sign another centre forward who's going to score them goals.
Champions League final, such a big game suddenly when you think about
but listen,
it. Like
maybe one step. You look at that Paris team. Paris are another level. That forward line is incredible. And I saw Paris a year and a half ago at Emirates, and Emirates won. Arsenal won 2-0 with Declan Rice. I think it was both free kicks. That's a different PSG team now,
isn't it?
Because Dembele was suspended from the squad because of ill discipline. Now this Paris team is what I think Arsenal look at in the future. I think Arsenal are maybe 1 or 2 years behind it, but like I agree with Ian, the shift's changing hugely from the north to the south. Yeah. Arsenal could be the biggest club in England for a good few years.
I don't want this to sound too much like a high performance podcast, but there is something about the foundations that have been set at Arsenal. It's a really well run club, and it's in Arteta's vision, like you say, from day one. Mission, purpose, vision, really clear. This is what we're doing, this is where we're going. So they're actually 7 years into a big plan, and it seems to be working. Yeah. But like you say, it's Liverpool made a lot of expensive signings last year and did what we're talking about now, and it hasn't worked. It really hasn't worked.
That's right. Yeah, we
bad injuries as well at key moments. Like you buy Isak.
Yeah,
Isak the year before at Newcastle was phenomenal.
Yeah,
and then this season he's had a complete. Yeah, I think he's only played a handful of games because he had a big injury. He was not fit at the start of the season, got injured, played a couple of games, then got a big injury again, and then his fitness is nowhere near. They've been unlucky, Liverpool, if you think about it. And then you've had a big drop off of form of two of the talismen in Salah and Van Dijk.
Yeah, I think though with the amount of money they spent on the players they bought, they were kind of hedging their bets against bad luck because they've got such a strong squad. It hasn't worked.
No,
had they really? Because you lose Trent.
That's true.
You lose Alisson. They lost they've lost quite a bit of the season. And you say that they've got a strong squad. They had a great forward line. It was like the Real Madrid, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We have all the forwards and we've got nothing behind. If Van Dijk was suspended or injured, what centre half were they going to play?
I think nothing. Well, I think they lost all the pace in the team by losing Luis Diaz and Darwin Núñez, even though he wasn't technically good enough. He was quick, and essentially they've lost Salah because his legs went when nobody expected him to. So you lost all that pace in the team. They've had pace in the team for years, all the way through Sadio Mane and Salah, through Klopp and all the rest of it. And the centre half situation, they messed up the Mark Gay thing, and then they bought the young Italian boy whose name I can't remember, who was going to be the third choice centre half, and he did his knee ligaments in his first game in the Carabao Cup. So they were left with Konate and Van Dijk and Gomez, who you can't rely on for fitness. And look, we've been critical of Van Dijk. I've been critical of Van Dijk. He's played just about every minute of the season, and that's not much of an exaggeration if you look at the numbers. He's played almost every minute of the season, and that's because he's had to. And everything that could have gone wrong at Liverpool has gone wrong. Sometimes that happens, but without getting too deep into it, you've got to ask if the coach has performed.
One of the criticisms we get on the radio when we start having a similar conversation is, why are you not talking about Aston Villa? A great manager, European, in a cup final, which will have been played by the time you listen to this. Financial fair play is restricted them. They've probably got one of the most exciting players in Morgan Rogers.
Because if we do talk about Aston Villa, you just start talking about John McGinn.
No,
that's why we don't talk.
Is that where it was leading to?
No, it wasn't. Morgan Rogers is where I was going with it. And actually, Ollie Watkins.
If you can remember the first handful of weeks of the Premier League season, and Aston Villa were, I think, second bottom.
Yeah, they had
and everybody was going, oh my word.
Yeah.
Because we did a prediction, didn't we? We all put Aston Villa in the top.
Yeah.
At least top 6. And everybody was going, where they're going here. And then they just gradually won game after game after game.
He is arguably the best manager in the league.
That's a great conversation. But
he's arguably the best manager in the
league. With all the restrictions.
But he has to be, Emery he has to work in a certain environment, and it's an environment of almost total and utter control. And as we've probably said before, and I've certainly written before, there aren't many clubs in the country who are happy to concede that amount of control to a coach these days. He has that at Villa. What a job he's done. Yeah. What a job he's done with a squad that is nowhere near as deep as the others in the top 5.
And by the way, Villa haven't won a trophy since 96, I think. Ooh. No European trophy since 82.
Since the League Cup?
96.
Got a huge chance in the Europa League.
That game
huge chance.
Will have been played by the time you listen to this. But again, for Villa, I think Villa are in a really interesting position. And if you were the owners of that club, you think, there's competition that we can really push for here. Champions League.
Can't, unfortunately, because
they're going
to have to sell it. They're going to have to sell one of the big name players again.
Even with Champions League money?
Because they're a year behind. They're still a year behind, and the problem is they've got to balance the books this time. And what's sad is a club like that. And I've been in their company when I was working for Nottingham Forest, and the talk was they were going to have to sell players, and you're like, how? That you're one of the top sides in England and you're having to sell one of your players, and again, going to have to do it. And that's what, for me, doesn't feel right about this financial fair play, that a club like Aston Villa, who want to invest correctly and the club's run correctly, how can they not move to another level?
Yeah, yeah. What an interesting conversation, by the way, with the manager of the year, because Keith Andrews deserves a shout, doesn't he? What a performance he's put in.
Yeah, Keith Andrews at Brentford. We've mentioned Emery, obviously Arteta, Iriola at Bournemouth, extraordinary.
Pep's won a cup double, domestic cup double.
It's not Regis Lebris at Sunderland, Daniel Farker at Leeds.
Yeah.
You know, the Lebris thing, I know I've banged his drum constantly this season. I think because Sunderland have been safe for so long, we've kind of forgotten about what an achievement it is to be safe for so long.
Everybody said they'd go back down.
Absolutely,
everybody said it.
They were the second best team. They were the second best team in the playoff final last season, which they won. So he's got to be in there as well.
Who would you vote for then if it was a? Have you voted?
I've said Lebris all season, because I just think to come up and stay up, and to build and assimilate a whole new team in the Premier League, to build an aeroplane while flying was it was a way it was described to me.
That's brilliant.
I think is extraordinary, and he's had my vote since about November, and I'm sticking with him.
Mark,
tell you what, was that alcohol good last night?
He's on the floor, Paul.
You've been smoking something.
Who's your vote for then?
If I was going to vote, no, definitely not. If
Howard Webb.
Definitely not. Listen, I'm going to go. I would go, and I'm going to say there was one team I said was going to go down at the start of the season, and I would have put my mortgage on it. Was Brentford.
Yeah.
And what Keith Andrews has done, and the way he's kept the club together, they got rid of some big name players. He's replaced them with players who hadn't been in the Premier League before, and it's worked.
Yeah.
And how he doesn't come out ranting and raving. He doesn't come out and criticise referees, like even when Brentford are on the wrong end of things.
Yeah.
He does the right thing, and the way he's gone, because a lot of people criticised him. Some big name personalities in media criticised Keith Andrews' appointment at Brentford, and he's come back and stuffed it in the face because he's done wonders.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Michael Carrick's done pretty well as well, hasn't he? Considering where the club was when he took over.
Yeah, he's got the
argue. Right, before we dive back into the football, we're in partnership with Wix Trade Pro. Tradespeople, you want to listen to this bit?
Absolutely, because being a Wix Trade Pro member saves you money.
You can save 10% every single time that you shop in store or online. There's no minimum spend, no hassle, just savings.
Brilliant stuff.
On top of that, if you've got a big job coming up, lads, and you need to buy a load of materials up front, with Wix Trade Pro, you can now buy now and pay later. Powered by Billy. Pay interest-free within 30 days or 60 days and track your payment status easily through your Trade Pro account.
That's not all. You can click and collect within 15 minutes. And for even trickier jobs, order online or in store for delivery within 3 hours.
Blimey.
To sign up and start saving, just download the Wix Trade Pro app today. Billy offers unregulated credit agreements, UK businesses only, 18 plus, subject to status, T's and C's and late fees apply. Right, well, I'll tell you one team who won't be the second best in the playoff final and have a remarkable season in the Premier League next season, Southampton, who have found themselves in what can only be described as a massive pickle. So as you listen to this, we found out today that they will be punished and removed from that playoff final. Middlesbrough will take their place. Hull are scratching their heads. But then how far back do you dig with this, right? So an offence has been found, spying, but what exactly happened is still unclear. A lot of the chat behind the scenes from contacts we have is that it wasn't about tactics. It was about finding out whether a particular player was going to be starting. But whichever way you look at it, as a result of the Bielsa situation with Leeds in 2019, a £200,000 fine became a law which has now punished Southampton. And we had a Southampton fan and podcast on the radio this morning. He absolutely obliterated, eviscerated Southampton and the club he loves. He said they can't be trusted, there's no integrity. What else has happened? I mean, it completely tore them to shreds. So, Ian, Southampton, the interesting thing for me is how far back does this go, and can you reverse engineer other 3-0 results from other clubs who were in playoff contention? Is this a massive can of worms?
It is, and I think that the EFL, and I bumped into a couple of people from the EFL at the Football Writers Dinner on Tuesday evening, which about 2 hours after the news of Southampton's removal from the playoff final had broken, and they looked like they'd had a long couple of weeks, put it that way. And I think it does open a can of worms, but I think there's got to be a limit on what they can do.
Yep.
So just to go directly to your point, I don't think you can go back through the season and look at all that game and that game. You just can't. You just essentially have to start the season again. Yeah. Okay? A couple of things here. I remember when the Bielsa Leeds derby thing happened several years ago, and I remember and the hoo-ha about that, and I remember looking at that thinking, this is a great story, but this is a total fuss about nothing. This is a guy peering through a hedge. He's not trespassed.
I've got a vision of this.
He hasn't trespassed.
Yeah.
My view is put a fence up, guys.
This is at the crux of the debate, right?
Right. So that was my view. My view is always you want to stop people peering in on your training. Put a fence up, lads. Okay. Yeah. Right. That was my view back then. Now this is slightly different. Well, my view on the offence is the same. How much can you learn? Who really cares? But the key difference is that there is now a rule in place.
There is. It's not a rule, it's a law.
And Southampton have deliberately, willfully, blatantly, and it appears on more than one occasion, broken this law.
And also it's filming, isn't it? It's not peeking through
within
a hedge.
It's within 72 hours before it.
No, I've been to the Middlesbrough training ground, okay, on several occasions. And it is surrounded by open land and a golf course.
And a hotel.
And a hotel. You and I could wander up there and find a place to, it's just the way it is. Mm-hmm. Now, there's an argument that there was a responsibility on the football club to provide an environment in which the players can train without being seen. I think there is a responsibility on the club for that, okay? However, the law is there. They've broken it on purpose. They've known what they've been doing. So I went on Sky last weekend and said, a fine is enough. And I've changed my mind.
Have you?
I've changed my mind. Yeah, I have. Now that we know for definite they've done it before, I've changed my mind.
By the way, it's 4 points as well, isn't it?
I think this is the right call.
Let's not forget, it is 4 points at the start of next season as well, isn't it? Yeah.
But it's interesting that the coach doesn't get suspended.
Well, I think there'll be questions asked internally of the coach now. Again, Southampton have got to ask questions of.
This becomes a political story for me as well, though, because if it's this classic thing about who knew, right?
I think.
Yeah.
You start to pull that thread, then you're in real corporate governance hell.
I think because the evidence comes out some days ago that there was multiple occasions, it makes it worse that they think they're arrogant, that they can do it.
Culturally, yeah.
And I think the regulation was brought in that, if we're talking about why the regulation was brought in, was before it could only be a monetary fine. What's 200,000 if you get to the Premier League?
Yeah.
If we're talking 200 and something million, £200,000 is peanuts. So therefore, clubs will do it.
Yeah.
So they brought the regulation in that there can be a sporting punishment. Before there couldn't be a sporting punishment. Now there can be. And I'm in Ian's camp where if it was this one-off game, then I'm like, listen, what could they've gained out of it? Possibly, maybe something small. At the end of the day, they've done it multiple times. They deserve the punishment. One of the big losers here for me isn't just Southampton, it's Hull.
Oh, absolutely.
And I'll tell you why.
Absolutely.
I'll tell you why I think it's Hull. And Hull now are preparing for their biggest game.
Play Southampton.
Biggest game since Dean Windas's goal back in God knows how many years I've refereed.
They don't even know which day it's going to be yet.
But one thing that really upsets me, Ian, about it is Middlesbrough decided at the end of the season they're going to carry on their training. Southampton have been training for Hull. Middlesbrough have been training for Hull.
Yeah.
Hull have been training for Southampton in Middlesbrough.
Yeah. And
how unfair it is for Hull.
I'm not even knowing, Mark, what day the game's going to be.
Going to be on.
Yeah.
And there's still a chance, by the way, that Southampton, by the way, in the terms of all of this, could win an appeal.
Yeah, it's subject. Everything's subject.
Yeah. But that appeal, and I know people will be listening to this on Thursday. That appeal, that's got to go through the process pretty sharpish, because as you point out, Mark, there's a wider thing, and there's also a wider issue here of Hull fans They would have bought tickets for Saturday, would have booked trains and
Southampton fans
hotels
as well.
for Saturday.
Yeah.
You know,
Who's going to reimburse that if it doesn't go ahead?
So there's
and
a lot
Wembley's
at
not
stake.
available.
Can I ask a technical question as well? What if you had a bet on an accumulator?
Oh,
Cash out.
No, but if you
yeah.
if you've been paid, you can give them the money back, are you?
No,
but
but
also, what if you had money on? There's a big nest here, isn't there?
You know what?
It's not. This is not a great image.
It's not.
And a great. When we talk about the AFL, listen. AFL. No wonder they're in the executives and the board members are in a difficult position. It is. It's a huge difficult position, and if they've known about these other two breaches, this could have been dealt with. And if they'd been caught previously, then we wouldn't have got to this point with Middlesbrough, because they would have realised their punishment, maybe a 4.5 point deduction, which could have slightly hindered their chance into the playoffs. They wouldn't have done it at Middlesbrough, and it would have been dealt with. It's the arrogance that they thought they could just keep doing it, and eventually they got
And what
caught.
it also is, Mark, as well, is it's a bit pathetic.
Yeah.
It's a little bit pathetic. How much can you learn? So you think, Mark, that they were going there to see if a particular
But no,
player
it's only a
was
source.
right. So if they're going to observe their set pieces, want to see the set pieces, just look at the videos of every game they've played this season. How much do you actually learn?
I think you learn loads. I think you learn loads. I think you're setting up.
Only if you. Sorry to interrupt, Gordon. Only if you observe a certain session, i.e. the session that's the shape session or the set. Because a lot of training is not that, as we know, especially this time of the season when players are tired and training can be quite light. Unless you get the right session, which is the opposition, the session they do when they get the players who aren't going to play to act as the opposition. You go through, unless it's that session, you're not learning much.
I think there's.
And he's not going to see much from a distance on a mobile phone.
No. Well, I think
unless he's got one of these new Chinese phones.
Especially if it was my phone, my iPhone 2,
your Nokia 6210. It's brilliant at Snake.
He's Blueberry.
Great Tetris.
I think there's enough legs in your career for the story, and I'm going to put a mark in the sand here about this, because I think there will be a headline Drone Gate at some point. Because I think the stakes are so high that there will be more espionage in football.
But then you couldn't.
The punishment's too much.
You couldn't.
No.
If this sticks.
What with certain Greek owners?
But you couldn't put a drone up without it being seen, though, could you?
Yes, you can. Of course you can.
Can you?
I met a guy recently, right, who was telling me about the drone technology that exists on this planet. And this
You've always met a guy.
It's honestly fascinating guy. They're called sparrow drones now, and they look like a bird, fly and sit on a branch, sit there, wait for 2 weeks idle, and then switch on and can. So honestly, the technology would baffle you. Some of the other stuff he told me.
Tell you what, I'm going to have to get that bird out of my garden.
Yeah, she's been there too long.
Too long.
I'm going to put that in my office at home and see if my missus ever does any work.
Going to say,
but no, I think now, Gordon just
at least I'm not going to put it in the bedroom.
No, he'll be idle for a long time.
How much batteries it got?
Just to end on that, I think now if Southampton lose their appeal, now the punishment's too high. I think now it'll get to a point where clubs will think.
But I was at my daughter's football last Sunday talking to a couple of dads about it, having gone on Sky the night before, saying, it's a fuss about nothing, give them a fine. But I said, I think they probably will get fined. That was what Middlesbrough were expecting. Even on the day of the announcement on Tuesday, Middlesbrough were expecting it to be a fine. They were surprised by the outcome. And one of these dads said to me, well, fine. If it's going to be a fine, then it's got to be 100 million quid, because that's what they're going to get if they get promoted.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah. It was a facetious remark, but there's also some logic in that.
I think we've over-intellectualized the principle, right? Because for me, is it Spygate or is it Cheatgate? It's cheating.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, it's not. That's not sportsmanship. It's not within the game for me, and any kind of cheating to get an advantage, out with the rules of the game.
Come on, Gordon.
Put the hammer down.
Gordon has been cheating for years in football. Players diving, try and win penalties.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that when you've got a chance to punish it, you don't punish it. We can't finish this episode, Gord, without asking, where were you then? Where were you as Celtic, and what were you doing, and how were you when Celtic played Hearts at Parkhead on Saturday lunchtime?
I removed myself as far from civilization as actually is possible in this country.
Went home.
I had a passport, and I was ready. I was genuinely ready to fly out of the country for a few days. Honestly, I would have. I was going to leave the country.
Were you?
Yeah, I'm not.
Are you going to go back to that wellness place that you went to?
Yeah, I was going to go back to the world's most expensive rehab retreat. I couldn't. I was getting messages from Hearts fans.
So where were you?
After 92 minutes, I was in the hills.
You didn't watch it? You went for what?
No, I listened to it on the radio, and I was in bits at about 93 minutes because the messages started to come from Hearts fans. I was thinking, this is going to be it. This is going to be it. You know,
what, they were going to do it?
Yeah, and it.
Tell you what, if it wasn't for VAR, it might have happened.
Well, that's the thing,
because the assistant referee flagged Celtic's goal offside.
You know what? I would like to go back to that offside. I still think that the rule we had when the guy scores a goal, whose name I can't remember. If he becomes active, I still think he should go. I think he's offside.
I sent Mark.
The law states is you're not in an offside position unless you touch the ball or you interfere with an opponent, and he does neither. So when he eventually touches the ball, it's a new phase.
I prefer the old one.
I know what you're going back to. If you're in an offside position, fella, you're always going to be flagged. The game's moved on.
No, I know, mate. I know.
And the game's better for it. And I believe, you know what was madness, right? I couldn't believe, right? And I had to shake my head a few times. Some people sent me messages. How could the third goal not be offside?
No, it was classic.
And I just stopped. I had to stop.
Well, 3 players are on their own half, aren't they? It was that's classic example of people who don't know the game.
You don't understand some football fans.
It's like,
I couldn't control myself.
That started as a wind up as well.
You know when we had
certainly
Lee,
flooded out the.
You know when we had Lee Dixon on a couple of months ago, and we talked briefly about the Arsenal-Liverpool game at the end of the 1989 season when Liverpool needed the draw and Arsenal beat them at Anfield, and Lee said to us that he thought the thing that killed Liverpool was the fact they didn't have to win.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about this watching the Hearts game.
They just needed a draw.
The psychology of football, of going into a game knowing that you don't have to win, absolutely affects the way you play. Hearts have been the best team all season.
The Hearts fans that I know say exactly the same thing, by the way. You know, they would have preferred going into the last game needing to... Is that right?
So I watched the last half an hour.
You missed something before that.
I watched the last half an hour, and all I saw in that half an hour was a Hearts team playing for a final whistle. Yeah. And I think if Hearts had to win that game, I think they'd have won the game.
Can I just add something on then? Yeah. If you'd watched all of it, or you watched all of the second half.
I watched most of the second half.
It was Derek McInnes's fault Hearts lost.
Really?
Yeah, and I'm going to be controversial when I say this. And I said this when I was in the pub in Athens in an Irish bar watching it with a lot of Celtic fans around. You're allowed 3 windows for substitutes, yes or not? But you're allowed 1 at half-time and you can still have 3. Derek McInnes made a substitution a minute after half-time. Whatever player it decided that he wasn't fit enough to come out, he probably didn't even touch the ball. Mm-hmm. He had to make a substitution a minute after half-time, window number 1. And I'm thinking, hold on, they're winning 1-0, they're going to be under a lot of pressure.
They're 1-1 at that time, it was.
Yeah, 1-0, but he's going to tactically have to get this right. But they still got a chance at 1-1 to win the title. Within 7, 8 minutes, he gets a bad injury. He's into 2 substitutions. So within 8 minutes of the restart of half-time, he's now got 2 windows used. What does he have to do on 65, 70 minutes? He's only got 3. He has to make all 3. He makes all 3. He couldn't then... Once Celtic tweaked it about, when Celtic tweaked it about, because Hearts went on top, then Celtic went back on top. He couldn't change it after that moment because he had nothing left.
The counter argument is, though, that's Martin O'Neill being a great manager as well, isn't it? Because he changed things up, didn't he?
Yeah, but what I'm saying with Derek McInnes, if he hadn't made if he'd made that substitution at half time, he wouldn't have had to do all of them after 70 minutes, and he could have slightly tweaked it later on. Yeah. Because he'd made that, and I was shocked when he made that substitution. Only he will know if it's an injury. But if that player hasn't told him, because he hadn't even touched the ball when he's been substituted.
I think there was a bit of a Martin O'Neill masterclass in management and just keeping the players composed. And
I love Martin O'Neill. I can't take him straight in that tracksuit by that.
I love him. Saw a great thing on social media of a skit of what's his name, Wilfred Nancy, ringing up Celtic asking if he's getting a win. If he gets to win his medal. His medal. If he gets to win his medal.
Special mention for a friend of mine.
And the guy on the other end of the phone says, no, there's only one. And he's like, oh, well, I'm happy to share it with Martin. Brendan can fuck off. Brendan started the season, didn't he?
I've been getting a load of stick about trying to remain impartial on us. It's been tricky, right, on the BBC. But a special mention from my mate Martin Geisler, who's a BBC broadcaster in Scotland. The director spotted him in the away support at Celtic Park with his Hearts t-shirt on, opening his jacket with his scarf around his neck, swearing like, fucking come on.
So what will, I mean, seriously, what will that do for the dynamic in Edinburgh next season? I mean, you'll be sticking it to them big time, won't you?
Well, it's Albert Kidd all over 1986,
because that's the chance,
it's
isn't
exactly
it?
that. Again, they talk about us, there's a verb, Hibsing it. And I think Heartsing it is actually probably more prominent. But next season's going to be good. Tony Bloom will be looking at that, encouraged, I think.
Yeah, but Celtic aren't going to have a season like that again, where they open the door.
Well, who's going to be the man? Don't know who the manager is. It's definitely going to be It's not going to be Martin O'Neill. Definitely not going to be him. That squad needs major surgery. The board have been under huge pressure because they haven't invested appropriately at the start of each season. I think Hearts are breathing down their neck. It's really, and Hibs, we've got a decent squad. We'll have a good tilt. Motherwell are a good team. Rangers will be furious.
Aberdeen can't do as bad as that.
Celtic should be really ambitious and go for bloody Thomas Frank or someone. They really should.
They really should.
They really should.
Get the checkbook out, spend a bit of dough.
It'll be interesting.
Big hand,
interesting. The rivalry in Scotland always used to be Celtic and Rangers. Yeah. After what I witnessed at the end of the game with the Celtic Heart, I think there's going to be a lot of rivalry next season in Scotland because of what happened at the end. Forget about, but the react like Hearts, the players having to leave.
Yeah.
And the pressure, the scrutiny and the security that they were under.
We didn't get a chance to talk about it. I sent you the SFA statement, didn't I? And what was your response? Did I send it to you? I can't remember. Yeah. It was, to be fair, right, the criticism of referees is brutal.
Yeah. I thought the referee was outstanding, mate. I'm going to say.
I mean, what a tough
I thought the referee
job.
was outstanding.
I think that's one of the hardest refereeing gigs there will be in football this season.
Let's be where
north or south.
Where credit's due. Don Robertson was outstanding.
To give the handball.
Give a penalty, which was correct.
After all the handball controversy, he was right.
He was 100% correct. The way he handled that game, the way he controlled the game, with all the emotions and the pressure that was on it, credit to him. Credit to him.
Right, just before we finish, the England squad will be announced.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
so Friday.
Ian will be there, Ian?
Yeah.
Before you walked in, there was a little bit of a conversation about one particular player. You've written about this week, because I think that's look, we could all scribble down 23 names, right?
26 names.
And I'm saying 23 names we could write down. There would be three that we would probably disagree about to make the 26. But there's one in particular that stands out.
There's just this weird rumour going around about Ivan Toney, which came to me from two different people this week, and I know has reached the ears of a couple of other people as well. Now, one of the people who's told me about it does have a vested interest in Toney being in the squad. So take that one with a pinch of salt. The other person absolutely doesn't. And the other person is absolutely convinced that Ivan Toney is in the squad. I haven't written it as a hard and fast news story because it's so out there that you just risk making yourself look an idiot. But I'm quite happy to sit here now and talk about the rumour because it's out there. And
coming from somewhere.
I can't understand it because Tuchel's had him at arm's length for more than a year. But it's out there. He's
had a very good, because I follow Saudi Arabian football, and he's had a good season.
The suggestion is that Tuchel has decided that with 26 names he can afford to take a bit of a rogue one, and he's decided he might just want a big number 9 essentially. Whether that's for
who misses out, Jared Bowen.
Does that mean Ollie Watkins?
I think it would be somebody like Watkins.
Is that what you're trying? If he's going to take Toney, then Watkins is at risk.
He is. But look, I can't believe it
if he scores tonight
because it's so out there.
Because if Kane gets injured, because Harry Kane will lead the line of 100%, but he's got enough if he takes Rashford and Gordon, hasn't he?
Yeah.
To play up.
Yeah.
If he wanted to play up. And he's always been a big lover of Gordon, hasn't he? Because of his pace. Yeah. Rashford can do that job as well.
Rashford's
so I can get what you're saying. I can get what you're saying about a big number 9.
I also think Jude can play through the middle.
Yeah.
But you know what I think would be important this summer? And I thought this. And when England played that last friendly game against Japan. When they got beat. And they were poor, England. Last 10 minutes of the game, Dan Burn comes on. Harry Maguire comes on. England get a succession of corners and almost score. They don't score, but they almost score from about 3 of them. And I sat there and thought, this is what we'll see at the World Cup. The World Cup will be played at a walking pace, as we know, because of the weather. And I think you will see England strong in the last 10 or 15 minutes of games, set pieces against tired teams.
Sol Campbell technique.
And I think this plays to a bit of that, exposing teams at the end of games with direct play.
Yeah,
and I think this plays to it. I think England will be very strong at the back end of games.
And you know why? You've got a massive point as well. Because if England are going to rely on set pieces, which they did with Gareth Southgate, if you remember the defending that the opposition tried to do was block and hold. FIFA have told their referees they want to be strong.
Some big boys.
Because they will not allow, in this World Cup, what we see in the Premier League, holding and pulling at corner kicks.
And by the way, Declan Rice, how many assists has he got from corners this season? So if you've got Harry Kane, Harry Maguire,
Ivan Toney,
even Tony.
Yeah. I
love that.
It's the bomb squad.
But I think it will be. I'm not trying to kind of
Jude Bellingham.
Not trying to suck all the enthusiasm out of the room before the World Cup. I think this will be a low-scoring World Cup.
Boring England.
I think it'll be a low-scoring World Cup.
Not in the Scotland games.
For the reasons that we discussed.
Italia 90 repeated.
And I think that will play to England's strengths. I do. Because we won't concede many goals.
We'll have to say that, just on that statement, we'll have to say that per match because there's more matches at this World Cup.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, per game, yeah.
God, the negativity of Ian's footballing outlook.
Why are you surprised?
Just for a quick one then, because we're talking about the World Cup squad then. You've named that one, which I can half understand.
Yeah.
It's good, got some legs, that. Yeah. So who would you take as the reserve goalkeepers in? Because that's another little area. If, for example...
I think the goalkeepers union this week, yeah, right?
No, because Pickford speaks for himself. But if Pickford gets sent off or injured...
I think it's Henderson and Trafford, just because... Henderson, because I think Henderson is number 2. Tuchel loves Trafford. I'm a bit out on Trafford, but I just think Pope and Ramsdale's not played, and Pope does a liability with the ball at his feet. Liability with the ball at his feet. I think it's Henderson and Trafford for me, and you pray that Pickford doesn't get injured because he's one of the best goalkeepers in the world these days. I really believe that. Yeah. I really believe that. Yeah. Great
Sunderland player, isn't he, Mark?
Talking about Sunderland players, I wouldn't be surprised if Jordan Henderson's in the
He's 100%.
He loves him, doesn't he?
He's 100%.
From coming back, because when he went to Saudi, everybody was negative about him. Then he went to Ajax, bought himself back, and then went to Brentford, being a revelation. So
anyone that you two would, any wild card that you two would put in there? There's 26 names. There's room for a wild card.
You know what? I'll put a wild card, and it's been spoken about, and I've heard loads of discussions, and I was with some highly esteemed people in the last months, and they were talking about this, and most of them said they would love to take Matt Downing, and why they would like to take him was for the experience, because not all 26 players are going to play in the tournament. There's only going to be maybe 15, 16, maybe 17. One or two of the players might only play 5 and 10 minutes. So you've got to have squad players. You can't take experienced players like Ben White. No disrespect to Ben White.
Well,
I can't say but Ben White, players like types of Ben White that would sit on the bench for the full. Dan Burn would.
Yeah.
Because he would be happy to be there.
Correct.
But certain type of players will be happy to be
Jared Bowen
on the bench. Jared Bowen.
Yeah.
But a certain type of players that wouldn't be suited to that. And I think there's 3 or 4 spots that England managers over the years have made surprises. And I think it would be good that we're looking at the future, not just the World Cup, but also the next Euro, which is important, that we're now giving these younger players the experience to train with England players and have that set up and be ready for the next.
He did it with Walcott, didn't he, back in the day?
Yeah. If he takes the likes of Chalobah and Dan Burn, and he will take Dan Burn. If he takes the likes of Chalobah and Dan Burn over Maguire, I don't want to be rude about the England manager, but that's a stretch.
But would you play Maguire? Yeah, but the problem with that, Ian, is and I like Harry Maguire. I think the way Harry Maguire's bounced back from all the negativity.
Yeah, he did well with that.
Mentally strength has been brilliant. Can Harry Maguire sit on the bench? With Dan Burn, what Dan Burn can give you is height. Okay, Maguire's got that. But Dan can sit back into the left-back position if he's needed. So he gives you a bit more versatility.
So I
I'm
saw
not sure how he does that.
Dan Burn play left back for Newcastle against Arsenal in that nervy game that Arsenal won about a month ago. It was not pretty.
No.
Not
Dan
really.
Burn against, I think it was Madueke in the first half was not pretty.
You know, the
That's
other
what I
thing.
would
He has
say.
been,
The other
yeah,
thing,
but
Jack,
he has
Jack
been
Gaughan
pretty-
reminded us last week, and it's worth bearing in mind how much Pep Guardiola wanted Harry Maguire.
Yeah.
Don't forget that.
Yeah.
Right? So people who had written Harry Maguire off, one of the greatest managers of all time, wanted him.
I have to say, I know you did it last week, but I have to say that 5-part Pep series by Jack, which I had the good fortune to edit, is now out.
Yes.
And it's fabulous.
It's brilliant, isn't it?
Even if you're not a City fan, if you just want an insight into the way one of the greatest coaches we've ever known has worked in the last 10 years, really check that out.
Sensational stuff. Right, boys, great to have you here. Mark Clattenburg, Ian Ladyman, thank you very much. Mark, would you do the honours, please? Thank you very much for watching Whistleblowers. Remember, there are new episodes every Thursday and Tuesday, so don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for even more content. And follow us wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode.